some people have called the under 80 kilogram division at the Craig Jones Invitational the greatest division there has ever been in competitive grappling history. So what better a category for the next Jiu-Jitsu Oracle tier list than the under 80 kilogram division at the Craig Jones Invitational. So I'm Ross. I'm joined as always by Calum. Calum, explain to our viewers and listeners, what is a tier list? How are we going to do this?
Yeah, so we've given some distinct categories for each tier list to make it a bit less subjective when we're placing people. So we'll just run through that off the bat so you've got an idea of how we're judging this. So in S tier, we've got favourite to win the division. So this can be one guy, this can be more than one guy, but if you're in this division, this tier, you're a favourite to win the division. A tier, we've got as a good chance to win or go very far, so not quite an outright favourite, but can definitely get as far as the semi-final, definitely do well, is expected to do well, and can definitely win the division. And then B tier, we've got this as the dark horse tier, so this tier, people could surprise people, go very far, or if they perform well and it's their day, they could even win the division as well. In C tier, we've got the disruptors. So these guys we think can win a match here or there. They could disrupt, they can take out some favourites in the division, but we don't think they've shown anything in their career as of yet to prove that they can go super far or win the division. And then D, we've got unproven. So these guys in their careers as of yet, or as of late, haven't shown the capability to compete with the best guys in the division, and these guys will be matched up with top guys first round, so we just don't think that these guys have a great chance of getting through the first round.
As we go through the tier list, please like, share, comment, particularly comment, because in our previous tier list, which was the under 66 kilogram division from the ADCC, we had a lot of comments on the YouTube channel, which helps extend the chat. So let us know what you think. Also, if you've seen the spelling mistake on Calum's last graphic, comment, let us know that you spotted it. But it's still there as it was in the first tier list. So moving on though, we have a nice new graphic. We have a nice new tier list to fill up. First name that's going to be going on the list is one of the biggest names in the division. Am I right, Calum?
Yeah.
Okay, so let us know who is number one.
So that's going to be Nicky Ryan. That's the first guy we're going to be looking at. So Nicky's an interesting one, as you said, huge name value. But we're trying to judge this solely off of what these guys are capable of in competition. And when we look at Nicky Ryan's record, obviously he's got the recent win over GT Torres, which is quite impressive, but we don't think it's the same JT as we saw a few years ago that won back-to-back ADCCs, so impressive win nonetheless. And then he's got a couple losses, one to Jonathan Gracie and another to Elijah Dorsey, who aren't in this division, but are kind of at this level. Probably could have got into this division if they wanted to. They're like ADCC caliber competitors who will be competing at ADCC. We both kind of think the prime of what we've seen competitively from Nicky Ryan was his run a few years ago in WNO, where we've seen him beat PJ Barch, we've seen him beat Dante Leon and Gabriel Almeida.
Correct.
So he looked really good in the match against Dante, looked really dominant there. Obviously Dante is one of the best guys in the world, and he would be high up this list if he was in this division, but he's doing ADCC. So from that was a few years ago, though he's not been as active recently. He's not really had some success against like the higher tier grapplers in this. Like he's faced Tyler Tolle, didn't do so well in that match, and as well he's not really used to competing that much in a tournament setting outside of trials, so like having really hard matches against really good guys back to back could be a challenge for Nicky, especially his cardio. So I would put him at the B tier or dark horse tier. I think he could go very far, he could take out some good people. If everything goes well on the day, I do think Nicky Ryan has the potential to win the division. Like, that's not something that I can't imagine. I can definitely imagine that. So I'd be looking to put him in B tier.
So I think if you consider Nicky Ryan, the name Nicky Ryan, instinctively you might head towards A tier.
Yeah.
And I think if you think about Nicky Ryan in 2021 when he had that run in WNO, or you think about Nicky Ryan grappling in the gym against the likes of G-Rod, instinctively you go towards A tier. But I think you're right in that how we've seen Nicky perform more recently, he is more of a dark horse to win it all at this stage. I think it's been a long, long time since we saw Nicky in the ADCC as a young guy, you know, really impress. Since then, maybe he's had some issues with some injuries. He's obviously had the change of gym, etc. going on. So I think like maybe in 2021 I'd have had Nicky at 8, but I think right now slotting him in B is entirely justified. So
especially with that injury still being a factor as well, so that's going to hinder his training. As well as his ability to perform in the competition. So slotting him in E tier to kick things off.
So for those watching on YouTube, you'll have seen Nicky move into B tier. For those listening on Spotify, Apple, any of the other platforms, we'll do our best to keep remembering that we have listeners as well as viewers. So Nicky Ryan, first guy on the board, you're slotted him in at B. Calum, where do you want to go next?
Let's have a look at one of his teammates, Kenta.
Okay.
So Kenta is really good grappler, very durable, very well-rounded. Saw him give Mika Garbel quite a good match, even though he didn't really win any part of the match aside from a takedown he got on Mika. When you look at his resume, I think his two most impressive wins are Keith Ricorium, who isn't in his weight class. So as impressive as that is, they're not in the same weight class. It's hard to compare the two. And then the other impressive win is someone in this division, Joseph Chen, at Asian Trials a couple of years ago. But given that Joseph is only 19 and we've seen him develop a lot recently, I don't think it's fair to say that that is the same Joseph as we're dealing with now. So I would be looking to put him in the unproven tier. If this was a different division we were looking at, we could quite easily have Kenta quite high. But when we're saying unproven, he's obviously not unproven as a world-class grappler. He definitely is, but it's just, I think he's unproven to beat some names in this division.
Well, okay, so unproven perhaps as like a world-class grappler, if you take world-class meaning like the absolute elite of the sport. So it's like, how's Kenta going to do against a lot of the names in this division? Is he like likely to win? And I would say at this stage, probably not. I mean, like the most impressive thing I've seen from Kenta is his durability and how he's been able to perform against the likes of Mika, but never in the match did I think that Kenta was going to win. So like if Kenta can win a match in this unbelievably strong division, I think that is great for Kenta. But like I would say thus far, it's not proven that he's likely to win. So that's why he's in this category. Pluses for Kenta, durable and good on the feet.
Yeah. So
he's going to be a tough nut to crack for whomever he comes up against. But with the way the seedings work, he's likely to face some of the guys that we're going to have in S tier and A tier. So it's going to be really hard off the bat for Kenta. Okay, let's move on. Who's the third grappler we're going to look at?
Let's have a look at Tommy Langacker.
Okay.
So Tommy obviously was mostly a gi guy in the past. He's transitioned to mostly focusing on no-gi. Some impressive wins on his resume are Matej Szyzinski. You got some more written down there.
I would say with Tommy, like the most impressive things that we've seen him do is he's an IBJJF no-gi.
Yeah, beating Elijah Dorsey in that competition as well, which is an impressive win.
And ADCC European Trials.
Yeah.
So he's showing a capability to win tournaments that are challenging. The issue, I think, this time is like this tournament is a step up in no-gi terms for Tony.
Yeah. He has lost some matches to some guys in this division as well, likes of Joseph Chen, the likes of Kato Toll, the likes of Andrew Tackett. So he definitely belongs in this division, but when we're talking about like going far and beating the top guys, he's not showing that yet. I'd be looking to put him in the destructors here because I definitely think, given his game, he can win a match here or there. Could definitely cause an upset. I just don't see him having the well-rounded skill set to go super far when he's lost to a few guys in the division like that.
Stylistically for Tommy, why is he difficult to play against?
He's got that interesting style with back takes, the key masters, the Barbolos and everything, and he's got more to him than that as well. He's got really good guard pass, and he's got some good wrestling he's been working on as well.
Yes. So, but I think, well, he's got that strong side to his game. Not as strong side to the game would be wrestling in no heat. He's been working it, top game as well. So I think Tommy, like, his route to victory will be, like, if he can play guard, take someone's back off a guard engagement. But is he likely to do that 2, 3, 4 matches and go, like, really, really deep into the tournament? I think that's going to be challenging for him. So I think C tier is fair enough for Tommy. But yeah, definitely has threat to win a match or two and be a disruptor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Let's have a look at Owen Flanagan next. I think this kind of highlights why this division is so interesting, other than just having a lot of star power. This is an interesting division because it's in the middle of 2 ADCC weight classes. So it's in the middle of 77 and 88. And because of that, we've seen the majority of the division being taken up by 77 kilo guys. We've seen also a fair few guys move down from 88, which is going to be interesting to see how they do at that weight and to kind of see the clash of styles between those two weight divisions. So with Owen, he had a really good outing at last ADCC Worlds. He managed to submit Mason Fowler and he managed to beat Jean Ginibero. He's got a very dangerous style. I think the interesting thing talking about the divisions is there definitely still seems to be more of a gap to exploit the leg locks in that 88 kilo division. Not to say that you can't get a leg lock in 77, of course you can. But in 88, it does seem like the guys are not as well versed generally in defending the legs compared to 77. So it's going to be interesting to see him in this arguably more technical division to see if his leg locks are going to transfer over. He's obviously known for his leg locks, his dangerous leg lock game, his arm bar, choi bar game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that translates, as well as how he translates with losing all that weight as well. So I think pretty high at the C tier for Owen. I don't think he's a dark horse to win all. I don't think he's got the well-rounded skill set to go through all those matches, especially seeing his recent match with William Tackett, and they've got a few guys in this division with a similar style of that, staying outside the guard with good passing, but I think he can definitely take out some big names in this division, so I'm thinking C tier for Owen.
Yeah, I think with Owen, there's some question marks as well. Like you touched on the weight drop that he's going to have to do. Also, like, coming from the UK, we've watched a lot of Owen over the years, and I think earlier in his career, and he has talked about this, is like he found pacing in matches very difficult. I would also often fatigue towards the end of matches. I think he's a lot better at doing that now and like lasting the pace, but he's much better at doing that at the weight he's been grappling at, which is kind of under 88, and maybe in some of the super fights and stuff he's had, we're getting up into the 90 kilos for the weight class. So
as well with the style thing, I found that like once he actually moved up and put on that weight, he had a lot more success, whether that was due to his attributes feeding into his own game better, or his style doing better at the higher weight classes. Watching him in the UK scene, maybe under the radar before he broke out, he definitely had more success once he packed on that muscle and went up a weight class. So that's going to be a big question mark as well.
Yeah, that win against Mason Fowler at the last EDCC looks better and better as time goes on, and Mason does really well. But I think like along the way, he got like beaten by Bedoni, got beaten by Wagner. I think Jandre was a good match for him. Jandre, absolute legend of the sport, but his high point was probably in the gi quite a few years ago when he was able to beat Roger Gracie. So I think it was a good time for Owen to get him, although full credit to Owen for winning the match. But yeah, I see him winning some matches, potentially, definitely not a few submissions, but I think the way these guys are going to get challenged in this division, like you're going to have to do it all to come out on top. And I don't know if he's just quite as well-rounded as some of the other guys that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. I agreed with that. I'm going to put them just above Tommy. So the further to the left they are, the higher they are within the tier list, just because his game is so dangerous and he's proven more than Tommy at this world-class level, at ADCC level. So putting him just above Tommy. So let's have a look at another guy moving down from 8 to 8. Let's talk about Lucas Hulk Barbosa. So Lucas, I think he's been focusing more on MMA as of late. Interesting in a couple of ways because he's not been doing as much grappling, but also in MMA he fights at 170, aka 77 kilos. So although we've not seen him grapple at this weight, at least we know he can make that weight. We don't really know how he's going to perform in grappling at that weight, but that's at least something that we do know. For Hulk, I think even though he came out of last ADCC Worlds with a silver medal, I think prime Hulk was probably still a few years ago. He was very active in grappling. He beat some like really, really top guys. I think if it was a few years ago, might be looking at him at S tier, but I just think with recency, even though he did come out of last ADCC with a silver medal at 8 to 8, which is very impressive, I'd be looking for him to be more on A tier, especially given the question marks with him moving down in weight. But yeah, I think very solid competitor. Can definitely win the division. Good at just winning matches, especially in a point setting. He's good at scraping a win out, regardless of what happens in the match. So I'd be looking at A tier for Hulk.
Okay, I think when talking about Hulk, it's a good time to bring in the criteria that I use to judge people. So accolades, strength of schedule and form on their resume of late. So with Hulk, accolades, I mean, he has titles in the IBJJF, no-gi and gi, but we're now going back like quite a few years.
Yeah.
I think 2018 was the last world title.
Yeah, I think he's got a few no-gi black belt world championship wins and then a couple medals at ADCC as well.
So, and then ADCC, that said, last time out, did pretty well in 2022, beat Santeri, Hinger and Wagner. Which is like a good run. Before he also more recently, when looking at strength of schedule and form, as Calum highlighted these people, some more on MMA, we did see him grapple Bedoni on who's number one and lose to Giancarlo, which no shame in that. Giancarlo, obviously ADCC champion, but nonetheless, it is a loss in the resume. So anyway, accolades, strength of schedule, form, and then eye test. / aura, which Hulk scores highly on, and then how he plays the rules, and like again, Hulk scores highly on. So I've got Hulk in E tier after all that. I think, as Calum suggested, maybe 4 years ago now, might have been touching S.
Yeah.
But I think E tier's a good spot for Hulk. Definitely a threat to win the whole thing. Like if he is able to make guys play the game where he is very, very strong at I don't want to be like disrespectful and say grinding out wins, but like he can grind out wins. Like if he gets guys doing that, he's very durable, then he can go the whole way. So Hulk in an A.
Cool. So let's have a look at another interesting one for this division, Jason Dolph. So the reason Jason Dolph is interested is very much not proven in the grappling world, so you're kind of tempted to put him in D tier, even though he's such a high caliber wrestler, but he almost is a dark horse as well because we don't really know what he's capable of, and he is so accomplished in wrestling as well, coming from Penn State, multiple time NCAA champion, so tempted to put him in D tier, but I just think pure grappling, he's so unproven, like he could be a very tough match for people in this division, especially with the game going more towards wrestling, and a lot of guys in this division relying on wrestling, but at the same time, you could get a Nicky Ryan that pulls guard and leg locks in 30 seconds. We don't really know. So I think we kind of have to put Jason in D tier right now.
So you said when he was announced and we knew we were going to be doing the tier list, you could put him in B and D simultaneously, right? And then you could look at that and go, well, does that put him in C? But no, I don't think it does, because like you have to treat each category with the criteria that each category has. So just because someone's like could be arguable for a couple of them doesn't mean that like we take the mean and stick them in the middle, right? So I think I am absolutely prepared to end up with egg on my face and say Jason Dolph is D tier right now, but he could shock us. and win some matches. But just think when we class D tier as being unproven at this elite world-class level, then in submission grappling, you have to be Jason there. As far as I know, he's had one no-gi grappling match.
Yeah.
He won. It was against someone from B team, but it wasn't against like one of their exceptional.
Wasn't against someone that would have been invited to this division, let's just put it that way. So, unproven at this level so far. So, let's have a look at someone that is a favourite to win this division, Ruotolo. So, Ty has got some big wins as of late. Big win over Joseph Chen, even though it was a more competitive match than I think some people anticipated previously. Very dominant over Isaac Michel. He managed to get bronze at the last ADCC World Championships in the Absolute Division. And then before that, before he was signed to ONE FC and stuck over there, he was doing incredibly well in a lot of the shows, especially Who's Number One, where he put together that run on the tournament for the 185 and the 155 titles in that division. He beat Mika Gabao, which is a massive name, even though it was a close decision. That's like very, very good to have on your resume. The interesting thing about him, it's kind of the situation with like the Sataya brothers in wrestling and the Taki brothers, where both brothers are pretty similar in weight. They don't want to face each other. So one brother moves up to a weight class that probably isn't his natural weight class, and it makes it more difficult for him to do well. So as of late, we've seen Ty a lot competing against bigger guys in bigger weight classes that debatably he shouldn't really be in. He just wants to avoid his brother. So even though we've seen him do very well, it's arguable that he will likely do even better in his more natural weight classes, fighting people his own weight. So I think that's an interesting factor for Ty. But for me, S tier for him, just given his caliber and his resume.
Can we just shout out that last ADCC run that he had as well? So lost in his weight class against Josh Heener, tough matchup for Ty. Teammates, but also Josh had done some coaching of Ty through the years at Atos, but then Ty bounced back, beat Pedro Mourinho, beat Felipe Pena, and then lost a very close match to Nicholas Menegali, who we've seen is like at the absolute elite end of the sport and also much bigger than Ty.
Yeah.
So I think based on accolades, we've seen that like Ty's right up there. Strength of schedule and form, like you said, being in one was not at the top of his strength of schedule, but still like beating Isaac and Joseph are really big wins. I think he beat Gary Tonin as well.
Oh yeah, you're completely right. It's you Gary Tonin.
Right. So, but they're good names to have with your resume. And then the way Ty grapples, he's always going to be very strong in the eye test. So I think S tier is a good spot for Ty Ruotolo. The question is, will anyone else join him at that top rank? Let's find out.
First, let's talk about Levi Jones-Leary next. So initially thinking about Levi, I was thinking about putting him in B tier, but obviously we need to judge this objectively off of their competition success. And having a look at his record, he does have some big wins, but moving to Nogi recently, he doesn't actually have that many matches, and he's lost some and he's won some. So obviously his biggest win recently is over Joseph Chen, which was a pretty close match. He scored a point in the Polaris rule set for taking his back, and then that was it for the match. So that's a massive win. That definitely boosts him up. But then he's had some losses as well to some guys in this division. Obviously, skill set wise, when we look at him, very much a specialist, very much the best in the world at his game. And we've seen against Joseph that could be very tricky, and that could cause him to get a score and win some matches. But I think well-roundedness, he's going to struggle to go far in this competition given the other people in this division. So I would be looking at C tier for Levi.
Yeah, and he's just not been at the top end of the no-gi game for a while, right? Very, very new convert to it.
Yeah.
Great addition. But doesn't really have like the accolades on this side of it, right? So we saw him in the Asian trials for ADCC, but not the strongest trials and not the most amount of top grapplers to beat at the Asian trials. So
yeah, I've seen him against Ty Ruotolo as well, but that match wasn't overly competitive, even with Ty going into Levi's game and playing on top. And then if there was ever a situation where Levi needed to wrestle against Ty, he would very much be underpowered in that situation. So we're looking at Ty as being one of the best guys in the division, and he's going to have to beat guys like Ty. We've seen that match in the past. Can't really justify him going much higher than C tier for winning it all.
Okay, so we put him in C tier, right? Where do we put him in C tier?
I would say behind Tommy, just because Tommy has got probably not as specialised a game in that Barbosa game, debatably not as good in that game as Levi, but Tommy's a bit more well-rounded. We've seen his passing be a bit more successful. Like, he actually passed Mateusz Szydzycki's guard. Levi had a good showing against Mateusz, not getting submitted by him, not getting scored on, but he wasn't able to pass. And then as well, Tommy's got a bit more game in the stand-up department as well. So well-roundedness and accomplishments, I'd be looking to put Tommy above Levi. So I'm going to slot Levi in just below Tommy in C tier.
Okay. Good. Right. Next.
Let's have a look at Roberto Jimenez. This is an interesting one because he was originally scheduled to be in the over at 80 kilo division for CJI. We've seen him pack on some muscle recently. He's been doing a lot of the bigger divisions. His biggest achievement as of late was the last IBJJF Nogi World Championships, where he got double gold. I believe he won the heavyweight division, and then of course winning the absolute division to get double gold. So he's been used to fighting a lot bigger guys. We've seen him in super fights, fighting guys like Nicky Rod. So it's interesting to see him coming back down maybe to his more natural weight class. Don't know how much of a cut it's going to be for him. I don't know what weight he usually walks around at. Roberto is someone that can definitely beat any guy in the world to a certain point on his day. It's just going to be the consistency throughout the division, whether he can go super far, that is the question, I think, for him.
I think it's interesting that he's dropped because I think he causes big problems for guys who are bigger with the way he moves, his dynamism, etc. Like some of his names on his resume that he's beaten, Roosevelt, Haiti Jesselab, Trator, like big dudes. And again, he did really well against Nicky Rod. Certainly asked him some questions. So it'd be interesting to see Roberto if he's in a stand-up wrestling game against the likes of the Ruotolos, how that goes for him. But yeah, it's like on his day as well, like you said, sometimes consistency is not quite there. And then also like there has been a historical challenge for him in defending legs.
Yeah.
That might still exist. I mean, he's much better at defending legs now, but then guys who attack legs are much better at like covering their game.
More recent challenge for him when you look at his record, 3 of his losses recently that stand out are Mayram Guy, and then Giancarlo Bedone and Isaac Michel. So all those guys have got really good stand-up, and I think that's where we saw Roberto struggle. Roberto was classically known for his guard a bit more, but we've seen him lean more towards the wrestling and the passing. So against those guys with strong wrestling where he was put on his back, I think he struggled a little bit with that. So a couple of question marks as far as that, but just like the chaos of his game, and if he pulls you into that chaotic scrambles, he's very much likely to come out on top in those sort of positions. So I'm thinking of B tier for Roberto.
So let's go back to the criteria. Is Roberto a dark horse to win it all? Could you like close your eyes and foresee that happen?
I could.
Right.
Slim chances, I think, but I think I could.
But there's a percentage chance.
Yeah.
Like, or C tier. Is he a disruptor that's, maybe going to win like 1-2 matches? I would lean towards like imagining that on his day, if it aligns, Roberto could come out on top in this division. I also think if you look at like the guys in C tier, like there's let's say a weakness, or certainly like not as strong a suit in the wrestling, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think like Roberto, if he can keep it on the feet against guys, like he can beat pretty much anyone in this division. Just with like the dynamism and the scrambleness of his takedown game. So like I would say like B, but where exactly on B remains to be seen as we add some more guys in. I think we could be putting Roberto in B. But if you disagree, let us know in the comments. And we will read them and chat with you on our YouTube channel. So those of you who are looking on YouTube, you'll see Roberto moving very slowly towards B tier, possibly that he's ever moved. But here we go. He's in. Right, next.
Keep it below Nicky for now. Okay, so next let's have a look at Majid Haig. So for him, I think D tier would be the appropriate tier to put him in. I think he is unproven to beat any of these guys in this division. Another guy around about his standing in the division, I realised lost to him. He's one of the few guys in this division that has not won a trials to qualify. So he's obviously been invited to ADCC in the past. So I believe he has not won a match at ADCC or won trials. And then he's not beaten anyone in this division or anyone around about that level. So for me, clear-cut D tier for him. Really love watching Majid. Really looking forward to watching him. But I think just being objective, I don't see him being any higher than D tier for this.
Yeah, I will say Majid, to say like watch him. I like the throwback, not just the t-shirt and shorts, but the way he plays, half guard, see some classical half guard. Really nice to see someone in the division with something different, much like with Jason Nolf. But like I said, I think when you look at Majid's resume and the guys he's lost to, that stands out more than the wins he's had. So to me, it's like if this was a trials tier list, Majid would be a threat to get to the final of whatever trials there are. But when you're talking about this level, I think D tier's fine for him, what we've seen thus far.
Above Jason North and D tier, but below Kenta. Right, let's have a look at one of the few guys in this division that has won an ADCC world title. Let's have a look at Mateus Diniz. So Mateus coming in with a world title in 88 probably makes you think off the bat that he would be S or A tier. However, that was quite a few years ago now, and as of late, it doesn't look like he is kind of on the same level that he was when he won that world title. I think that's a fair thing to say. To be fair to him, some of the losses that he has had recently, Giancarlo Bodoni, Gordon Ryan, Nicholas Marigali, Kenan Duarte, so the top of the top grapplers in the world, and that quite a few of those guys being heavier than him as well. So no real shame in losing to them, but at the same time, we've not seen much consistency in his competing since that ADCC world title. Not seen the best form recently, so I would be looking at pretty high up B tier for him. I think he could still definitely win this division. He's got the skill set to win matches, very similar to Hulk, quite similar stylistically to Hulk in that and just in general. So I would be looking for high up B tier. I think he's not showing as much as Hulk lately, even though he does have the title over Hulk.
Yeah, it was 2019, that ADCC win. 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Was Joseph Chen even really grappling 5 years ago? So, a lot's moved on since then. But yeah, definitely someone that I wouldn't want to draw if I was in this, because he's going to be very hard to beat. But I think from what we've seen of late, he is beatable. So B tier, yeah, for some that might be a surprise having former ADCC champ in there, but we've given reasons as to why. If you disagree, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay,
so another guy that we've not seen too much as of late, but has done a lot in the past, Hinato Kanuko. So Hinato has got some wins over guys in this division. Obviously, last ADCC Worlds, he drew Nicky Ryan first round. Nicky was good at the start of the match, but then Hinato started to take over from there, and he won that match. So I would be looking at Hinato in C tier. I think given his recent performances, his lack of consistency in competing recently, we've not seen enough to justify him going above C. I don't think I could really envision him coming out on top of this division, but he's definitely got the skill set, the athleticism, the physicality to take out some good names. And I think where his seeding would be in this, he's unlikely to get a top guy. He could, in my head, maybe be an 8 seed, basically a 9 seed or a 7 seed. So I think he's definitely got the capability to win a match or two. I just don't see him going all the way in this division.
Historically done very, very well at IPJJF, Gi and Nugi, but quite a few years ago now,
yeah.
I think. Of late, We've seen him more in Aniga and PGF. Although I see we've seen him more, they're not events that like I religiously watch, so I haven't seen as much of them, but I think it's fair to say that like the standard there isn't as strong as the standard that we're going to see in this event. So I think C tier, absolutely fine. Where he goes, you let me know, Calum.
I will. I was thinking about putting him quite high up C tier, but I'm remembering that Tommy actually beat him in one. And then looking at Levi, they've only really fought in the gi. They're 1-for-1, and Hanato has had the most recent win over Levi. So I think it's fair to slot him above Levi, but below Tommy, just given that they're matches they've had against each other.
Okay.
Right, let's have a look at Joseph Chen, guy that's made some big waves recently. He has been known about for a little while, but I think his big breakout run was at Trials, where he beat 3 back-to-back-to-back ADCC caliber competitors, 3 guys that have competed in ADCC in the past. So he beat Mateusz Zienski, Tommy Langenker, Oliver Wataza, back-to-back-to-back, and then since then he's had some big wins over guys like Elijah Dorsey and Andy Varela, who is in this division. So he has also obviously had the match with Ty recently that he did pretty well, and I think that raised his stock potentially rather than diminishing it. But again, he still lost the match. Another guy he's faced is Andrew Tackett, and they're 1-for-1. Joseph winning the first one, and then Andrew winning the more recent one. Very well-rounded skill set. I think probably the one people think about the least for him is potentially his guard, and then we've seen his guard hold it pretty well against Ty. He's pretty good on the feet, and then really known for his guard passing as well. So in all those like major areas, he's very well-rounded. I think B tier for him. I think with his skill set and how rapidly he's improving, the guys he's got on his resume, I could see him on his day winning this division, and I think it's likely that he goes quite far in this division.
Okay, so let's just deal with this one first. You slot him in B.
Right.
We have Levi in C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously we're gonna run into some things like that. I think there's a few guys that are maybe slotted in divisions above. The reason for having him above Levi, even though he's recently lost to Levi, is lost by 1 point in that rule set. Levi got his back. I think Joseph has a much better rounded skill set than Levi and is more likely to take out more names given his well-rounded skill set than Levi.
Okay, so I just wanted to throw that up because it might be something like some people are thinking of. And I think something who's like super impressive, Joseph, is his continual evolution and addition of new things to his game, and also his way to play well against whomever he's playing against. So he's always strategically very, very sound. Beyond these years, as it were. So you're favouring putting Joseph in B tier.
Yeah.
Where about?
So this might be controversial, just given the pecking order in B team, as well as some training videos that you might see, but we're not judging this off of name value. We're not judging this off of how well we see these guys do in training videos. We're judging it off of competition. So I think, in my opinion, what we've seen from both of them recently, I actually rank Joseph Chen above Nicky Ryan as a competitive grappler. Reason being, look at some opponents in common. Elijah Dorsey beat Nicky Ryan at Trials, and then Joseph just went out and absolutely smoked him. I think in competition, we've seen Joseph, as of late, look better than Nicky Ryan, so I'm going to slot him above Nicky Ryan, but below Mateusz Denise.
Big call.
That is a big call.
But I think what you're saying is, just to reiterate, it's like we're judging Joseph and Nicky today.
Yeah.
Not what they've done before. I think with Nicky, it's very easy to keep judging Nicky based on the potential of Nicky Ryan. The potential of Nicky Ryan might be still to go out and beat a Mika Galvao.
Yeah.
You know? But we can't judge based on potential. We judge based on now and by the criteria we've got. So I think instinctively you'd say Nicky would be ahead of Joseph, but I think you've made a very good case as to why Joseph can be ahead of Nicky. So why don't you slot Joseph in there? And Now we're down to the final 3 grapplers that have to be discussed. So let's get into them.
Okay, let's have a look at Andy Varela. So for me, Andy Varela will have to go into D tier. I think the only guy he's beat in this division, if I'm not mistaken, is Majid. Majid is in D tier. We've seen him against some other guys in this division. He recently lost to Joseph Chen. He lost to Andrew Tackett at Trials. He lost to Roberto Jimenez last ADCC Worlds, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So he's got a good skill set, very physical, good wrestling. You would think off of that he has the potential to do well in this, but I do think he's very much unproven to beat some of the names in this division, and he will likely draw a very good guy high up in this division first round.
Who could also negate him in the wrestling exchanges, you know? Like, so you could say that like he might get a Ty Ruotolo, who, if it's a scrambly wrestling match, I would favour Ty to get the better exchanges. He could get a Hulk, who I'd favour to control him and, you know, win the wrestling exchanges. So I think it's going to be really, really tough for Andy to win a match. What I will say is, usually excited and aggressive. So having someone like that in the division will make for entertainment. But I think based on his achievements, and have to slot him in at D tier.
I'm going to put him above Majid, obviously, because he's beat Majid, and I'm going to put Kent as the top of that division, that tier, because he's the only guy in that tier to win an ADCC trial. So I think that fairly puts him in the top of D tier.
Okay, last 2.
Okay, let's have a look at Andrew Tackett. So just kind of, again, we're thinking of what this guy's done in competition, and you might be thinking for Andrew, like, maybe instinctively you would think like B tier, but when you actually look at his resume and what he's done recently and the form that he's on, for me, I would be putting him in A tier, actually, which might come as a surprise when you look at guys like Nicky Ryan and Roberto Jimenez being in B tier and looking to put him above. But I just think what he's done recently has been pretty amazing. Some guys in this division that he's beaten, Tommy Langacker, like we spoke about, more recent match between him and Joseph. He managed to come out on top of that. I think he's beaten Kenta in the past as well, if I'm not mistaken, and he's beaten Andy Varela at trial as well. The run he's been on recently, I think he had a couple losses on his black belt record. One was against Damian Anderson at 66, which he looked very depleted in that division. And then the other one was at the Who's Next show, which was an absolute no time limit sort of situation. Then he lost to someone much heavier than him. But since those two, and since being at this weight class, he's just been an absolute tear and looked incredible.
So he lost to Cal Chambers.
Yes.
But then he got the revenge win.
Yes.
Cal Chambers. So, avenge that. I think, like, since that Who's Next, it's something's tough to keep up to date exactly with how many matches people have had. But I think maybe Andrew's managed to win 30 out of 31 since then. Like you said, there was a match against Joseph on like a gym show.
Yeah, that he lost the first one, then avenged that at an ADCC Open. But yeah, I think somewhere within that for 30 win streak, there was a loss to Joseph. But within the last like 30 matches, he's at most lost one.
Yeah. So, and then I just think like eye test, aura, like Andrew's on an absolute tear, so confident.
Yeah, his ability in this rule set as well, especially given the shorter rounds, your ability to have a move you can rely on to get a score on the board and win that round. He's got that in his power double leg from the outside, so we saw that with him at trials against Taza and against Varela. His ability just to pull that out of the bag at any time on the feet and get a score on the board. He just has to do that 2 times within a single match in 2 different rounds, and that's him won. So his ability to kind of pull that move out of the bag, get a score on the board, as well as the rest of his game being incredible as well.
I've got Andrew king of the A tier, and I think Andrew in his career is like one big win away from being S tier category, and who knows, this might be the event where he pulls it off. So we've got one grappler left.
Yeah, so talking about good resumes, I think this guy has got the best resume when you look at his record of BJJ Heroes. He is coming off of last ADCC, being the champion of the 77 kilo division, all submission wins. When you look at his resume, he's beaten guys like, in that division, Lachlan Giles, Roberto Jimenez, PJ Barch, Mika Galvao. He's also beaten guys before that, like Diego Pato, Ethan Krellinston, when he was fighting at the lower weight classes. And then he's got some more recent wins against guys in this division, like Tommy Langacker. So coming off of last ADCC, winning gold in the closest weight division to this 80 kilo weight class in 77, winning all the matches by submission, having a submission win over Mika Galbao is just like absolutely massive. So I think all that considered, obviously we're going to put Menest here, and I think above his brother Ty as well is fair, just given his recent performances.
Yeah, and one FC, sometimes it's tough for one to get like elite level grapplers to face the Ruotolos. There's obviously contract situations that come into play. Some guys are with WNO or Fight Pass or whatever, but like, I think Cade has been able to get some impressive wins in one. So you've got 2 matches against Tommy, and the most recent one was a more dominant victory for Cade. There's Francisco Lo and Mateus Gabriel as well on his resume, so really good names to have. The question mark comes as to like where we slot Cade against Ty. Will we see them face each other? We've seen them face each other before, back at Brown Belt.
Yeah. So we know if these guys face in the final is going to be a legit match. If you go back and watch their Brown Belt World Championship match, they were definitely going for each other. Cade was getting the better of Ty for the majority of the match, and then Ty managed to pull out an armbar and get the submission. We'll have to judge it off of their competitions and not these what-if questions we're asking. So I think we need to put Cade above Ty, but given what we spoke about earlier, with Ty having to be the brother to move up and fight the bigger guys, potentially that's going to have affected his recent competition success. Maybe if it was the other way around, the accomplishments would be the other way around, but we can't ask these what-if questions. We need to judge it off what they've actually done. So I think putting Cade as the number one here above his brother Ty is fair.
Okay, let's slot him in there. So now you can see, if you're on YouTube, our complete tier list. If you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, then hopefully you've been able to follow along, but you'll see that we have Cade Ruotolo at the top of the S tier, joined by his brother Ty, and then in A tier we have Andrew Tackett and Hulk, and then thereafter the rest of the grapplers. So that concludes the Jiu-Jitsu Oracle's under 80 kilogram division tier list for the Craig Jones Invitational. Tune in to an upcoming Jiu-Jitsu Oracle. We'll run through tier lists for every division in the ADCC and CJI. But before then, give us your comments. Let us know what you think. Did we call it right?